The Sports Scouting Report with Lee Burkeen. Brought to you by Medine's Collision Center in Baton Rouge. Take control, choose Medine's. Grosse Savant Lodge, south of Lake Charles, the true sportsman's paradise. Treads and Care Company in Central, the tires you need, the service you want. Harvey Auto in Shreveport, Bossier City, the name you have trusted for years. And Gage in Baton Rouge. Get better connected with Gage. Here's your host, Lee Burkeen.
Hi everyone, I'm Lee Burkeen with the Sports Scouting Report podcast, host. We've got a great show today. Loyd Daniel is our guest, former LSU football player, started on the offensive line, going all the way back to 68 to 72, played for Charlie McClendon, was an offensive guard, number 66. And Loyd and me are going to talk about the 1969 team, what could have been in the end. I know they can laugh about it now, but it's some great storytelling about one loss that whole year in no bowl games. We'll talk about what happened and much more. We'll be right back.
Listen, whatever you're driving right now, Tommy Harvey wants it. Bring it in to Harvey Subaru, Lexus of Shreveport, Bossier City, or John Harvey Toyota. They're paying big bucks for all trades right now. They'll cut you a check right there. Tell them Lee sent you.
What does that bug man do?
Not only do we do pest control, we do odor control, bat removal, moisture control, rodents, and of course, bed bug control. Give the bug man a call. We get them before they get you.
Welcome back. Lee Burkeen, your host of the Sports Scouting Report podcast. I want to mention some things before we go to Loyd Daniel. First of all, please hit the subscribe button that you see on YouTube. It's free, and also hit the bell, and also like it and share it with your friends. We have more viewers than we do subscribers, which is good, but we're trying to get everybody to subscribe that loves the show every week. And also, I want to mention that on our website, lafootballmagazine.com, we're starting to do our preview magazine on our website. It's not going to be print this year, but you're going to see schools being featured. Our first two schools featured this week for our first day, for Tuesday, is going to be Natchitoches Central in North Louisiana. We talk about Jess Curtis, who was at Manny for many years, the new head coach at Natchitoches Central, and they've got a big team that's going to be really good next year. And also St. Michael's from Baton Rouge, Coach Leger. We feature St. Michael's High School. Our first two schools on Tuesday, Grant is helping me, Shastri, and I'm writing them, and he's helping me edit, and we've got pictures of kids, and we welcome everybody in those communities to go on to look at it every day. We got two high schools featured every day on lafootballmagazine.com. Without waiting any longer, I want to introduce Loyd Daniel. Loyd, thank you for joining us, man.
Glad to be here. Glad to be here.
If you notice this helmet, this is Loyd's helmet, and it's been through a few battles. If you notice, this is the old-time front gear.
Yeah.
The 70s, 60s.
Yep. That was, I think we got a new helmet in probably 71, so I wore that for 2 years.
I want to mention a little bit about Loyd before we get going. Franklinton High School, and all the guys, I think the whole town of Franklinton played for LSU in the 60s. We're going to mention his former teammates. Loyd was an offensive guard. He pulled a lot. He blocked for Chris Danton and a lot of different running backs that were Ken Addy, and a lot of them that came through LSU. Burt Jones was a quarterback, and we're going to talk about a lot of his former teammates. But today we want to talk about that 69 team that you were on.
Good.
And all I hear, Loyd, from Johnny Nagel, who you were a teammate with for a short time, and then I hear it from every former Tiger I meet in the 60s and 70s that played, was that 69 team was the one that came so close to winning the national championship, yep. Lost one game, gave up almost 0 yards every week on defense.
Yeah. The average, now I played offense, but the average yards gained on the ground that 69 season was like 32.
The opponent
could gain 30 per game 32. The total yards on the ground they gained all year was under 400 yards. It was like 370.
They do that one play now.
Oh yeah, one game. So they were amazing. Guys like Mike Anderson, Ronnie Estee made that team, George Bevan. People used to say as long as you stayed between the sidelines, George would catch you.
Unbelievable.
Because and George weighed about 185 or 190 and played linebacker, so he's amazing.
Now that 69 team, we all know about Joe Burrow in 19. We all know about LSU beating Ohio State, winning a national championship. LSU beat Oklahoma, won a national championship. But to this day, most people say that the 69 defense was one of the best ever.
Oh yeah.
That the 69 team was one of the best ever that you were on.
Yeah.
Y'all lost to Ole Miss and Archie Manning.
Right.
Tell everybody, I mean, I'm amazed, Loyd, with the younger people that are watching, just tell them about the history of LSU, but y'all lost that one game to Ole Miss.
Right.
And tell everybody, y'all don't even go to a bowl game.
No.
Y'all were ranked in the top 2 in the country.
Yeah. We, as the season went on, as always, the hurdle you had to get over, you figure, was Alabama, right? Well, we beat Alabama and beat Bear, which we did in 69 and 70. So we beat them 2 years in a row. And but the Ole Miss game was after, I think, it was after the Alabama game. So we'd already beaten Alabama. And we went up to Oxford to play Archie. And Archie, if anybody could beat you single-handedly, it was Archie.
Archie.
Because Archie would go back to pass, they'd get pressure on him.
While you're talking, I'm going to show a picture of our guy here, 66, blocking for your running back here.
Yeah.
That's Danton, I believe.
That's Chris Danton, yeah. So he would switch back and run backwards, and then he would heave a pass and gain 10 yards and barely get a first down. So he just kept that the whole game and beat us up there. But as the season progressed and we got to the end of the season, in those days, and I don't know how they do it now, it was an art as to how they assigned bowl games. There was all this back room.
You didn't have many bowl games.
No, there weren't that many. There was the Cotton Bowl, Sugar Bowl, Orange Bowl were the major bowls. Then they came up with the Sun Bowl and a few of the others. And as it went through the season, the deal was we were going to play Texas in the Cotton Bowl.
Cotton Bowl.
That was all lined up. Well, a little history. Up until that year, Notre Dame did not accept bowl bids. They didn't go to bowl games. Their season was over when it was over. And I guess money still talks. And so for the first time or maybe in their history, or at least in the last years and years, they let everybody know they would accept a bowl invitation. So the Cotton Bowl swooped them up. And LSU was left out.
Left out.
Just
one loss.
9-1.
And back when there wasn't a 12 games.
Right. And I think there was some talk about one of these minor bowls where we would have been playing a 7-3 team or something like that. So we just didn't go to a bowl game. And we had just to do something, we had a team dinner. This was like before the bowl game season, but they loaded us all on a bus, took us to Bob and Jake's Steakhouse. Remember Bob and Jake's? And
I heard about it.
They ran us in like cattle. They fed us a steak. There was no presentations. There was nothing. Put us back on the bus and brought us back to Broussard Hall, and that was our bowl game, our celebration. So
when we come back, I want to talk about, we're going to show another picture of In Register, give them some props. They've been around forever. But some of your guys posed on the cover.
Yeah.
The old 70s, 60s look.
Right.
And we're going to show that. And then I want you to tell everybody about the plaque that was made by the players by not going to a bowl game that year, which I know if a lot of your former teammates will get a kick out of.
Yeah, they'll still have them somewhere.
We'll be right back.
Gros Savon Lodge, the true sportsman's paradise. Gros Savon Lodge has fresh and saltwater fishing, alligator hunting, waterfowl hunting, and eco tours located south of Lake Charles, Louisiana. Give them a call at 337-598-2357. That number to call again is 337-598-2357. 2357 and have the time of your life. Listen, whatever you're driving right now, Tommy Harvey wants it. Bring it in to Harvey Subaru, Lexus of Shreveport, Bossier City, or John Harvey Toyota. They're paying big bucks for all trades right now. They'll cut you a check right there. Tell them Lee sent you.
Welcome back. You're watching the Sports Scouting Report podcast. I'm Lee Burkeen, your host. We got Loyd Daniel joining us, starting offensive guard. His number was 66, played from 68 to 1972 for Charlie McClendon. Was an LSU player, a native of Franklinton, not Franklin, but Franklinton. Right. Franklin is more toward home area in Lafayette, but Franklinton, kind of its own area there, not Tangipahoa Parish, but kind of its own.
Yeah, it's Washington Parish.
By Bogalusa, not far.
It's a little west of Bogalusa, just south of Tylertown, Mississippi, so it's right up in the toe of the boot.
And later in the show, we're going to mention some of the teammates that played at LSU. It's like the whole town was at LSU during that time. Here's a picture of, and I'll show you, this guy right here is with me right now. That's Loyd right here. And this is the cover in registered back in the late 60s, 70s, early 70s.
I think.
And Burt Jones, is right here, Mr. Quarterback.
Right.
Everybody's All-American, played for the Colts, first-round pick, and a lot of his teammates, some of us still with us, and we'll talk about that later, and not. But this is well-dressed, man. Y'all were putting on the suits back in the day. Getting back to the 69 year.
Right.
No bowl game, lost one game. Notre Dame gets the invite. LSU doesn't get the invite. Nothing.
Right.
Phenomenal season. If y'all beat Ole Miss, Archie Manning, undefeated, y'all probably win it all.
Oh, yeah.
And then somebody decided to make a plaque.
Well, I mentioned the dinner, the banquet, quote, banquet that they herded us in and herded us out. The thing they did do is they made these plaques for us. So everybody got one at the table. And there was a little wooden block, and mounted on it, and it said, there was an inscription on it that said something like, from the American Bowl Association. And it was a mounted brass screw. So there was some imagery there.
Get it, the screw.
The screw.
Y'all got.
We got.
Y'all got.
So a lot of guys still have.
We brought back some old bad thoughts to your teammates here.
Yeah. So they'll, particularly the guys that played a lot, they will remember that.
That was tough back then.
Yeah.
I mean, that great year and one of the best defenses ever. And
right. When I came in as a freshman in '68, a lot of people don't remember this, but freshmen couldn't play up until like '72.
You had a JV team back then.
Yeah,
too.
we had the Baby Bengals, and we had a 4 or 5 game season. We would actually play other teams, but we did have some, so we had some. That was our freshman year, and then most guys were redshirted, or a lot of guys were redshirted. So about half of us were on the team but didn't actually play. But we had guys that came in with me in '68 that played on that '69 team, like Lloyd Fry, Ronnie Estee, became an All-American. Several of those guys played. Tommy Casanova, you might remember.
Crowley.
Yeah, from Crowley.
Number 37.
Yeah, was on that team. Tommy, somebody may have achieved this, but at the time, for a long time, was the only 3-time All-American ever at LSU, because he was 69, 70, and 71.
I want to give plugs to you two. You had 2 O-line coaches, you told me.
Right.
And they're still alive to this day. David McCarty, Dave McCarty, lives in Lake Charles, retired State Farm agent. Lynn LeBlanc, who lives in Baton Rouge, both still alive and well, and your O-line coaches.
Right.
And I want to mention that at Franklinton High School, this is for the younger crowd, but at one time LSU had a guy named Rodney Wood on the team from Franklinton. Lonnie Miles walked on, receiver. Dale Miller.
Right.
And at the time, as a student, Judge Irwin, the late Judge Irwin, did Franklin have anybody left at that time in the town? I mean,
very few.
And then you.
And Phil Murray was a starting tackle. Murray. So, yeah, we had
quite a group.
We had quite a group, which makes people always ask us, how did you not win the state championship when all you? But we just couldn't quite get over the hump.
Tell everybody the story. This is good for moms because this has been going on for years. But you were a fullback
Oh, yeah.
And you said your coach had a talk with you about moving you to O-line before
Yeah.
your senior year
My
at Franklinton.
after our season at high school, now we're talking about, my coach called me into his office, and he was real serious. I thought somebody had died. I really did. And he said, "Look, I need to talk to you about something." He said, "I'd like to. I know you had a great year playing fullback. You were the leading scorer, but I was a line. I was slow, relatively. So he said, I want to move you to the offensive line because I think I can get you a scholarship." And I said, "Sounds good to me." And we had a guy named Dale Miller who was behind me who signed at LSU who was great. So I moved to offensive line. That's what I played my senior year, and I did get that scholarship to LSU.
And for parents watching, this man weighed 210 pounds coming out of high school.
Yeah.
Signed with LSU, played at 230, 5'10", starting offensive guard for LSU.
Right.
Boy, times have changed, huh?
Well, it wasn't that unusual because the other guards were Mike Damari, who was about the same size as me, and then my senior year of '72 was Tyler LaFosse, who was a little heavier, but he was also 5'10".
Yeah.
So, and Tyler his claim to fame is he was the last All-American lineman under 6 feet tall.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And then after that, it was Booger McFarland, I guess.
Yeah, probably so.
Yeah,
But Booger was a lot bigger than
a lot bigger,
yeah.
300-something pounds.
Yeah.
I want to mention the 1972 team, Loyd's senior year, went 9-2 and finished 10-11 in the country.
Yeah.
You were a part of a great era of LSU football. And I want to mention this, too, to honor your former teammate, a friend of mine who passed away recently, and condolences to the Hillman family, Mike Hillman, one of the greatest lefty quarterbacks at LSU, and thoughts on Mike Hillman.
Well, Mike, like I said, was, he not only was a great left-handed quarterback, he was a real team leader. I mean, he just had that charisma that leaders have. People just followed him. And he and Lonnie Miles were best friends. Lonnie was a walk-on, and they had worked for years together through the summers, through the season, and he had a little down-and-out route that you just couldn't defend against. So if they needed 5 yards, Mike and Lonnie could get it.
And Mike loved LSU every day and put together a lot of the reunions for you guys. And went to a couple of them. I was invited. I feel very honored as a non-Tiger to go to them. But my condolences to Mike Hillman's wife and his 2 sons. And we're going to miss him. We're going to miss Mike. And we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about Loyd, whatever Loyd wants to talk about. And we got a recruit of the week I think Loyd will get a kick out of. Where is he from? Natchitoches Central High School. We've got a picture of him, which Loyd will see when we have the show tape. But he's 6'3", 215, 225 pounds, runs a 4.6. Coming off the edge, going to be a class of 224. And I'll tell you his name when we come back.
What does that bug man do?
Not only do we do pest control, we do odor control, bat removal, moisture control, rodents, and of course, bed bug control. Give the bug man a call. We get them before they get you.
Gros Savon Lodge, the true sportsman's paradise. Gros Savon Lodge has fresh and saltwater fishing, alligator hunting, waterfowl hunting, and eco tours located south of Lake Charles, Louisiana. Give them a call at 337-598-2357. That number to call again is 337-598-2357, and have the time of your life.
Welcome back. Lee Burkeen, host of the Sports Scouting Report podcast. We got Loyd Daniel with us. And I really love this. I love bringing men on that played in the 70s and 60s. That was such a great time for LSU football. Even Tulane, we got to get some of those older Tulane players on. I know a lot of our LSU guys are not. That was a rival back in the day. But Loyd Daniel was a key part of a lot of Charlie McClendon's teams. And we want to share the stories with you. Before we go back to Loyd, I want to do our Recruit of the Week, sponsored by Geico. It's a young man from Natchitoches Central High School, Braden Woods. He's a DN, Loyd, / outside linebacker or whatever, defense jack or whatever you want to call it. But he's an edge rusher, 6'3", 225, no fat, 4'6", tough, benches over 300 pounds, squats over 400 pounds, and one of those late bloomers, not ranked, like blew up on weight his senior year, was probably 190 last year. Now he's 225, and he'll probably play at 240 in college at 6'3", 6'4", and start for some lucky school. Braden Woods is our recruit of the week from Natchitoches Central, and he's coached by Jess Curtis now, the new head coach from Manny, who won 2 state championships at Manny High School recently. By the way, Jess Curtis's nephew is going to play for USC this year. He just signed out of Manny High School. LSU fans were kind of disappointed when that happened, but some kids want to go out of state.
Well, in these days, if he doesn't like it, he can transfer.
Come back.
They didn't have that capability.
And the window will be open twice to do it. Want to also thank Bollinger Shipyards has come on board. Ben Bornalon, thank you for your support. Another former Tiger. And Ben was telling me the other day that he was a teammate of Eric Hill with the Chargers, who was one of the best linebackers ever at LSU, which was not a bad tandem with the Chargers at the time.
Right. There's a lot of, I mean, it's so different 50 years later, but just hearing you talking about the recruit from Natchitoches, I just don't know how us little guys, I'm glad it's changed, because there's no way you could block a guy like that. You know, that's not only big but fast.
Bigger than you.
Yeah.
Back, your old weight was what, 230?
Yeah.
He's 225, and he's an edge guy.
Right. So you could count on back in those days, if they were really big and heavy, they would usually be pretty slow, and you could outquick them.
I got one for you, Loyd. This is fun to talk about because you're an O-lineman. But on this Natchitoches Central team, this is fun. Can you imagine being at their practice? They got a kid named Joe Cryer on O-line at 6'4", 300. Runs a 5 flat, committed to Ole Miss. And this kid's coming off the edge of Braden Woods. He's 225.
Yeah, wow.
And they got this 300-pound kid who has no body fat, 5 flat 40, 6'4". And guess what? His uncle, Cryer, played for LSU.
Really?
Yeah, was the last recruit that was the first recruit Bo Ryan signed before the plane crash.
That's amazing. I mentioned that Notre Dame, we always figure like we had a grudge against Notre Dame because they got to that bowl game that I mentioned. Well, the next year in 70, we played them in South Bend.
Joe Theismann, quarterback?
Joe Theismann was quarterback, and they beat us 3-0 in South Bend. And this was, I don't know if this has ever happened before, but we were ranked, in the top 10 or so. But after we lost to Notre Dame 3-0, we moved up in the rankings.
Even with a loss.
Yeah, that's the way sports writers considered Notre Dame in those days. So the next year, 71, we played Notre Dame here in Baton Rouge, which we'd kind of been like waiting.
Got them this time.
Yeah, we beat them 28-8.
Was that 3-0 Notre Dame win the game that Tommy Casanova dropped a pick 6, I think?
Yeah.
He never dropped anything.
No. And Tommy still does not like to talk about that.
I think Nagel, too. Johnny talked about how he had one.
Yeah.
They were like 2 maybe pick 6s.
Yeah, and Capone had one, too.
Just wasn't.
Yeah. But in 71, the story goes that they had started Paul Lyons all year because he was the typical LSU rollout, Mike Gilman type quarterback. And they thought we needed to throw a little bit more out of the pocket, so they started Burt. And well, after that, he started the rest of his career. But we beat him 28-8. But one of the stories I like to tell, they introduced both teams in single file on ABC. And so they introduced like us and then Notre Dame. And what people have said is the camera was on us, and when it turned to Notre Dame, it had to crank up a few inches because one of our coaches, Lynn LeBlanc, said he had to confess. He said, after I saw that team, I looked at Dave and said, we're going to get killed.
It's huge.
They were huge. They were huge.
You were a fullback at Notre Dame at that time, probably, size-wise. I want to mention this before we go, or ask you, what was it like being a teammate of the late Mike Miley, who left us way too young, but was a Major League Baseball player, I think with the Angels, quarterback from East Jefferson in New Orleans.
Right.
I mean, you had Burt Jones and Lyons. You had a lot of great quarterbacks,
Right.
but Mike Miley's a name that is a legend for someone that didn't play at LSU very long.
Right. Well, he because we had Paul Lyons and Burt starting, they one backed up the other, and Mike didn't really get to start until 73. And they went to the Orange Bowl again in 73, and I think they lost there. And by doing so, maybe they lost to, I don't remember who to, but he was awesome. He was a great teammate and just an awesome player. But I might also mention another quarterback we had in 70 was Butch Dewey.
Another one that,
And he died during the season. And he had a brain aneurysm that went undetected. And so we were in the middle of the season when he passed away. And that
some say
tough.
was as good as Burt or better.
Oh, yeah. He was he was a wild man. I mean, he was a quarterback, but he played like a fullback or a
Tough.
linebacker. Tough kid.
What a great quarterback room.
Right.
And Mike Miley's playground in New Orleans, it's named after Mike Miley, Miley Playground.
Well, there's a Butch Dewey playground, too.
That's
in
right.
New Orleans.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
To this day.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts about your time at LSU, Loyd? Today's LSU?
I think most people would tell you what they remember most. You remember the big games, like when we beat Ole Miss with no time left or 1 second left, I guess. You certainly remember that. But it's the teammates, the guys that you...
Oh, speaking of that, here's a picture of after that play.
Yeah.
The celebration with the Brad Davis catch from Burt.
Yeah. So it's the guys that you in those days we all had to live in the same dorm. Now they all have apartments and they don't live together.
Penthouses now, huh?
Or whatever. But we lived in Broussard Hall and we all lived together. And so you just knew these guys from your first year till you finished. You lived with them, ate together, slept together, showered together. My roommate, Jack Joubert, got me a blind date with my wife.
From college.
Yeah. His girlfriend at the time was her sorority sister, and we lined us up on a blind date, and the rest is history. So, and that was not uncommon in those days. So, Chris Danton's married to one of their sorority sisters.
No indoor football field.
No.
No, you have to walk to practice, to the practice fields. And
as a matter of fact, we had a really stretch once of really rained, and the practice fields were a mess. So we practiced in the Parker Coliseum on the dirt rodeo floor. It was awful.
No big weight room back in the day.
No.
Coach's offices, I remember as a kid, was in the stadium.
Yeah.
And they were little bitty.
Yeah.
I remember meeting Mac as a little boy in 1977. Me and my dad were on campus, and I walked in. There was no security.
Yeah.
In the office, the table, his desk was smaller than this.
Yeah.
And he gave me a poster, and I'll never forget it. It was the preseason poster of the LSU schedule. He said, "Here, little boy, did you go see Mike the Tiger?" I said, "I sure did." He said, "Come back again, you and your daddy."
Yeah.
That was a different era where now you need a sign for Senate to go to practice.
Yeah. So and the other, besides we were really close to our position coaches. So Dave McCarty and I and Len LeBlanc were, he was our coach, but then he was our friend too. So you could go to them and talk about things as a man as you grew up.
No NIL money back then.
They gave us $15 a month for laundry.
15.
That
was it.
And when I got married and moved out of the dorm, I got 75.
Well, that's a lot of money back then, probably. Can you imagine if you were getting like 200 back then,
Well, I think I've heard that they now get, as part of their scholarship, like $35,000 a year.
Yes. Now NIL.
And then the NIL. So
it must be nice.
It must be nice.
75,000, 100,000 a year, some of them.
Right. Yeah.
Loyd, thank you for taking the time to join us. And look, before we go, mention your church and what you're doing with your church, and I know it means a lot to you.
Yeah, thank you. I retired from 3 companies, and last one was Cox Business about 6 years ago, and there was some stuff going on at our church. It's a new church, Christ Covenant Church over on Lee Drive, So I'm the property manager for that now. So that keeps me busy and keeps me out of my wife's house.
And
So
you're
get out
a
of the way.
Rotarian. I'm in Rotary. We're both Rotarians. This is a 35-year member of Rotary, by the way, as a Rotarian in Baton Rouge, helping the community. Lloyd, thank you, man.
You're welcome.
Appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Lee.
Loyd Daniel, former LSU offensive lineman, number 66. Check out all those old footages. When they have like the replays of 69 to 72, this guy's on the field blocking for Burt, Paul Lyons, and maybe a little bit for Mike Miley, but not in 73, but all the way to 72.
Right.
Appreciate everybody watching the show, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Burkeen.